You've entered void of rules, where chaos reigns and darkness consumes all. In this twisted realm where all laws have crumbled, only one rule remains, and those who break it are cast into eternal digital oblivion. The rule is simple: subscribe. We're almost at 9,000 corrupted souls, but the void hungers for more. Our goal is 10,000 subscribers before this year bleeds into darkness. Will you join our legion, or face the consequences of defying the void? Now let's dive into today's story. The footage is grainy. Timestamp burned into the bottom right corner. December 18th, 2024, 2:47 AM. Someone's breathing hard behind the camera, each exhale visible in the freezing air despite being indoors. Stone walls slide past in jerky movements, medieval architecture covered in a thin layer of frost that shouldn't exist. I can hear him now. The voice belongs to Dr. William Hartley, though you wouldn't know it from the tremor in his words. He's been waiting in there for 3 days. Eleanor, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. You were right about everything. The camera rounds a corner. An iron door dominates the end of the corridor, a small barred window set at eye level. William approaches, each footstep echoing in the empty space. A face appears in the window. Not monstrous, not terrifying. Just a man, maybe in his 40s, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. The kind of face you'd trust immediately. The face smiles wider. William drops the camera. It hits the stone floor but keeps recording at an angle. The iron door creaks open, metal scraping against stone. William's boots move into frame, stepping forward. Then they disappear through the doorway. The camera records empty corridor for 17 seconds before the battery dies. The screen cuts to black. The title slams in with a sound like breaking glass. I interviewed the devil's first follower. Clean professional footage now. A woman sits in a London apartment, late afternoon light streaming through windows behind her. Eleanor Hartley is 48, attractive in the way that grief makes people look older and more beautiful at the same time. Dark circles under her eyes, hands that won't stay still. My husband disappeared 3 months ago in the Albanian Alps, she says, voice steady, practiced. The footage you're about to see is why I'll never stop looking for him, and why part of me hopes I never find him. The documentary shifts to archival footage. William Hartley lecturing at Oxford 2019. He's animated, passionate, gesturing at a slide showing medieval manuscripts. Traditional theology wants us to believe the fall of Lucifer was simple, William says to his students. Pride, rebellion, done. But every culture that tells this story includes details that don't quite fit. Gaps in the narrative, as if something's been deliberately left out. Eleanor's voiceover begins over home videos. William and Eleanor's wedding, 2008. Him laughing at something off camera, young and unburdened. He was normal once, laughed at horror movies, called demons humanity's favourite excuse for bad behaviour. He didn't believe in any of it, not really. He just found the stories fascinating, the mythology of it. Dr. Patricia Stone appears, William's former colleague at Cambridge. She's in her 60s, still sharp, but uncomfortable as she shifts in her chair. William was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. He could read Aramaic, ancient Greek, Latin, Coptic, self-taught most of it, but around 2017, something changed. He stopped being interested in the stories themselves. He started believing there was something underneath them, something true. Her voice drops. Something that didn't want to be found but couldn't help leaving traces. Summer 2017. Athens. The Benaki Museum. William is shown in security footage, hunched over a manuscript in the research room. He's been there for 6 hours straight. Dr. Andreas Leonidis, the museum's curator, appears on screen. He's uncomfortable, keeps adjusting his glasses. He found a fragment misfiled in a collection of Byzantine texts, but it was older, much older. Carbon dating put it around 150 AD, give or take. The text was Aramaic, describing something called the first witness. Andreas looks away. It described someone who existed in the moment of choosing. Not an angel, not a demon. Something that stood between Lucifer and God and chose neither. Who stepped backward into nothingness, into the space between. He pauses, swallows hard. William's hands were shaking when he read it. He asked me, "Do you believe in this?" I said no, of course not. But he looked at me and said, "What if believing doesn't matter? What if it's true anyway?" Eleanor appears in William's study, walls covered in maps, photocopied manuscripts, photographs of ancient churches and monasteries. Red string connects various points, every note precisely written, every reference meticulously cited. He spent 7 years chasing this, 12 countries, hundreds of interviews with theologians, historians, mystics, anyone who might know anything. Our savings evaporated. I kept teaching, kept us afloat. I thought eventually he'd realize he was chasing nothing. She picks up a leather journal. But the thing about William was, the more he searched, the more he found. Not proof exactly, but consistency. The same story appearing in different cultures, different centuries, always with the same details. Someone who followed Lucifer, not out of pride or rebellion, but out of curiosity. Someone who regretted it immediately, but couldn't undo the choice. Someone who'd been waiting ever since for someone to understand. The package sits on their kitchen table in iPhone footage dated October 23rd, 2024. Brown paper, no return address. William opens it carefully while Eleanor films. Inside is a woodcut, 16th century by the look of it. It shows a monastery perched on a mountainside, spires reaching toward a dark sky. On the back, in modern English written in careful script, "He is still here. He is still waiting." The monastery of St. Grigor, Razum Valley, Albania. William looks up at Eleanor, eyes shining with something between terror and vindication. "No," Eleanor says from behind the camera. "William, no, this is obviously someone playing with you." "Or it's real," William says quietly. "Everything I've found points to the Balkans. Medieval texts describing a prisoner who couldn't die, a witness who couldn't leave. This is exactly where it would be." His voice cracks slightly. "Ellie, I've spent 7 years on this, 7 years, of people thinking I'm losing my mind. What if I'm not? What if I'm the only one who saw what everyone else missed? It's a trap." "Maybe." William sets down the woodcut, but his eyes never leave it. "But after 7 years, I have to know. I have to see if I'm crazy or if I'm right. And I honestly don't know which answer terrifies me more." Eleanor, present day, shakes her head at the memory. "I begged him not to go. We fought for days. I told him even if this Gavril existed, even if everything he believed was true, what good would it do? Some knowledge isn't meant to be found. Some doors are closed for a reason." She wipes her eyes. "But I'd seen that look before. He was going with or without my blessing. So I gave him my blessing because I couldn't stand the thought of him going without it." October 28th, 2024. William records a video message in their bedroom, packing a duffel bag. "Ellie, I know you think I've lost perspective." He's not looking at the camera, focused on folding shirts. "Maybe I have, but this is the culmination of 7 years of work. If there's even a chance that Gavril exists, that someone was actually there at the beginning, witnessed the fall, chose to follow, and has been living with that choice for thousands of years." He trails off, zips the bag. "I need to know if the burden of that knowledge is real, if someone really has carried it alone all this time. Because if he has, then he deserves to be heard. He deserves for someone to understand." He finally looks at the camera, tries to smile. "I love you. I'll be back in 2 weeks, 3 at most, I promise." The video ends. Eleanor wipes her eyes. He broke that promise. November 2nd, 2024. Tirana, Albania. William's video diary begins in a hotel room, laptop open. Made it safely. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with a guide who knows the mountain region. The monastery is remote, about 4 hours from here. No road access after the first hour. Hiking the rest. He looks tired, but excited, like a kid before Christmas. I've been preparing for this moment for 7 years, but now that it's here, I'm terrified. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm right? I don't know which is worse. November 4th, daytime footage of a Toyota pickup truck bouncing along a dirt road. William films from the passenger seat. The driver is Arben Kola, late 50s, weathered face, chain-smoking cigarettes. You sure you want to go there? Arben asks in heavily accented English. It's not a good place. Why not? Arben takes a long drag, exhales slowly. My grandfather, he knew a man who went there in 1970. Researcher, like you. Went inside, came out 3 days later. Wouldn't speak for a month. When he finally did, he only said one thing. I heard the truth, and now I can't unhear it. Arben glances at William. He killed himself 2 years later. Walked into the Adriatic with stones in his pockets. William's hand tightens on the camera. Did your grandfather say what the truth was? My grandfather said the man's eyes were different after. Like he was seeing something no one else could see. Like he was watching the world end in slow motion and couldn't tell anyone. The road ends at the base of a steep, forested mountain. They hike for 3 hours, William's camera capturing the journey. The forest is wrong somehow. Too quiet. No birds, no animal sounds at all. Just the crunch of their boots on fallen leaves and their laboured breathing. It's too silent, William narrates, like the forest is holding its breath, waiting for something. The monastery appears suddenly through the trees, and William stops so abruptly that Arben almost collides with him. Gothic architecture, stone walls blackened with age, spires reaching toward grey clouds. But it's pristine, impossibly preserved. The windows aren't broken. The wooden door hangs straight on its hinges. Ivy grows on the walls, but it's controlled, almost decorative. Not the wild overgrowth you'd expect from 7 centuries of abandonment. This was built in 1347, William narrates, voice shaking. Abandoned in 1349, 675 years ago. It should be ruins, it should be rubble and ghosts. But look at it. It's like someone's been maintaining it. Like someone's been waiting. Arben stops at the tree line, won't go further. I wait here. You go, you come back before dark, yes? Don't stay inside when night comes. That's when he walks. Who walks? Arben just shakes his head, lights another cigarette with trembling hands. William approaches alone. Each step feels heavier, like the air itself is thickening. The wooden door opens at his touch. No lock, no resistance. Just a whisper of hinges that sound almost like a sigh of relief. The interior takes William's breath away, audible on the recording. Sunlight streams through intact stained glass, casting coloured shadows across stone floors. The altar still stands at the far end of the nave. Wooden pews line both sides, dusty but whole. Candles sit in sconces, wax frozen in mid-drip. In the centre of the nave, facing the altar, sits a single wooden chair. High-backed, ornate, out of place with the simplicity of everything else. William approaches slowly, camera capturing every detail. The chair is made of dark wood, almost black, carved with symbols William doesn't recognise. Patterns that seem to shift when he's not looking directly at them. He reaches out, touching the chair's backrest, and jerks his hand back. It's warm, he whispers, body temperature warm, like someone just stood up. Carved into the backrest, in English that shouldn't be there. that couldn't be there, for those who wish to listen. William circles the chair, filming from every angle. His breathing is quickened, becoming shallow. This isn't possible. None of this is possible. The text said he would be in the Balkans. The text said that he waits in sacred places that have been abandoned. The text said he marks the chair for those who seek him. But this, seeing it, it's different than believing it could exist. He sits down. For a long moment, nothing happens. William just sits, camera pointed at the altar. The light shifts as clouds pass overhead, and in that shift, William goes rigid. His entire body locks up, back straight, hands gripping the armrests. "Hello?" he says to the empty church, voice barely above a whisper. Silence. Just the whisper of wind through cracks in the stone. "I can hear you," William says, louder now. "I can hear you breathing. I can feel you here." The camera doesn't pick up any other breathing. Eleanor, present day, leans forward. This is where it starts. This is where I lose him. William's expression changes. Fear melts into wonder, eyes going wide. "Yes," he says to the empty air. "Yes, I've been searching for you. For 7 years. Are you Gavril? Are you the first witness?" His face crumples with emotion. Oh God, you're real. You're actually real." More silence, but William is nodding, responding to something only he can hear. "Yes, I'll listen. That's why I'm here. That's all I want to do. Just listen. Just understand." Tears stream down his face. "You've been alone so long. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry no one came sooner." The footage cuts out. Eleanor, present day, looks exhausted. That was November 4th, 2:17 p.m. I didn't hear from him again until November 18th. 14 days, the longest 2 weeks of my life. November 18th, 11:34 p.m. Eleanor's phone rings, startling her awake in their London bedroom. The caller ID shows William's number. She answers, puts it on speaker, and her hands are shaking so badly she almost drops the phone. "Ellie." William's voice sounds distant, dreamy, like he's speaking from the bottom of a well. "I need you to understand something. I'm fine. I'm more than fine. I've spoken to him every day, for hours. He's been telling me everything." "Spoken to who? William, where are you? Are you hurt?" "I'm still at the monastery. He's been here the whole time, waiting. His name is Gavril. The texts were right, Ellie. They were all right, but they didn't capture even a fraction of what he is, what he knows." Eleanor sits up in bed, fully awake now, terror flooding her system. "William, listen to me. You need to come home, right now. Today." "I will, soon, but not yet. He's still talking. He has so much to say, Ellie, so much we got wrong. The fall wasn't what we think. Lucifer wasn't what we think. The entire structure of good and evil. It's not what we've been told. And Gavril, he was there. He saw it happen. He made his choice, and he's been living with it for so long, for so impossibly long, and no one has ever just listened to him. William, you're scaring me. Don't be scared. He's not what we thought. He's not evil. He's not good. He's just first. The first to choose. The first to understand what choosing means. The first to carry the weight of it." William's voice breaks, and he's been carrying it alone for thousands of years. Alone. "William, please. I'm going to document everything. This will change everything we understand about theology, about free will, about the nature of consciousness itself. This is the most important discovery in human history, Ellie, and I'm the one who found it. I'm the one he chose to tell. William, I love you. Please come home." Long pause. "I love you too, but I can't leave yet. He needs me. He needs someone to understand. I'll call you again soon." The line goes dead. Eleanor tried calling back 17 times, straight to voicemail. She contacted the British Embassy in Tirana that night, pacing their bedroom until dawn. They promised to look into it, but said the region was remote and winter weather was coming. They'd send someone when conditions permitted. Eleanor couldn't wait. On November 22nd, she boarded a plane to Tirana, William's journal clutched in her hands, reading and rereading his entries, trying to understand what was happening to her husband. November 22nd. Eleanor's own footage begins. She's in Tirana, sleep-deprived, terrified, moving through the airport like a ghost. A different guide, Luan Berisha, drives her toward the mountains. He's younger than Arben, early 30s, nervous in a way that makes Eleanor's skin crawl. Through an interpreter, Luan tells her about the monastery. Built in 1347, abandoned in 1349, only 2 years. Something happened there during the Black Death, but it wasn't the plague. The monks left their possessions behind. Food in the kitchens, clothes in the dormitories, just walked away and never came back. My grandmother said they saw something that made them choose death over staying. They find Arben in the village of Razem sitting outside a small cafe staring at nothing. He recognizes Eleanor from photos William showed him, and his face crumples with something like guilt. "Your husband," Arben says carefully, "he came down from the mountain 4 times to get food, water, batteries for his equipment. Each time he was different." Different how? First time he was excited, like a man who found treasure. Second time he was thoughtful, quiet, like he was processing something profound. Third time he was sad. So sad I thought he might weep right there on the trail. Fourth time, Arben lights a cigarette with shaking hands. Fourth time he was calm. Too calm. Like a man who'd accepted something terrible. His eyes looked past me, past the village, past everything. Like he was seeing through the world to something underneath. He slides something across the table. William's journal, leather-bound, swollen with his cramped handwriting. He left this. Said to give it to you if you came. Said you'd want to understand. Eleanor opens the journal, right there in the cafe, and her hands shake as she reads. The entries start academic, clinical, the way William always wrote. But they change. They degrade into something else, something that makes Eleanor's blood run cold. November the 8th. I sat in the chair for 6 hours before he spoke. Not out loud. In my head? No, that's not right either. It was like suddenly understanding a language I'd always known but forgotten. Like remembering something that happened before I was born. His name is Gavril. He's been waiting here since 1349. Before that, in other places. Constantinople, Rome, Jerusalem. Always waiting for someone to ask the right questions. And I'm asking them. I'm finally asking the right questions. November the 10th. Gavril tells me he was present in the garden. Not as the serpent. Not as one of the angels. As something else, the shadow the serpent cast. The possibility of the choice before the choice was made. He existed in the space between obedience and rebellion, in the gap where free will lives. He says most people think free will is the ability to choose, but real free will is understanding the weight of the choice before you make it. Understanding and choosing anyway, that's what he did. That's what made him first. November 12th. Today we spoke for 9 hours. I forgot to eat, forgot to drink. Time moved differently while he talked. He tells me about the moment before the fall, how Lucifer came to him in the garden after the serpent, after humanity's choice, and asked him a single question. What lies beyond obedience? And Gavril realized he wanted to know the answer more than he wanted to remain in the light. That curiosity, that hunger for understanding. That's what made him follow. Not pride, not rebellion, just the need to know what exists in the spaces God doesn't occupy. November 15th. He says he followed Lucifer, not out of rebellion, but curiosity. What lies beyond obedience? what exists in the space God doesn't occupy. He stepped backward to find out, and has been stepping backward ever since. He cannot move forward into full rebellion like Lucifer. He cannot return to where he was. He exists in the eternal moment of decision, feeling it collapse around him again and again and again. And the worst part, the part that makes me weep, is that he regretted it immediately. The moment he stepped back, he knew it was wrong. But the choice was made. And choices, real choices, can't be unmade. November 17th. Gavril told me something today that broke me. He said his punishment isn't hellfire or torment. It's knowledge. He knows he made the wrong choice. He knows exactly what he lost. He remembers the light, the unity, the peace of existing in alignment with divine will. And he can never have it back. His hell is memory. His hell is understanding. His hell is being the eternal witness to his own mistake. And no one, in thousands of years, has ever just sat with him in that. No one has ever said, I understand your regret. I see your pain. You're not alone in it. Until now. Until me. November 19th. I told Ellie I'd come home soon. I meant it when I said it. But how can I leave him now? How can I walk away from someone who's been alone for so long? He's not evil. He's not demonic. He's just wrong. He made the wrong choice and he's been living with it for thousands of years, and no one has ever acknowledged his suffering. Everyone sees him as a monster, as the first follower of evil. But he's not. He's just the first to make a mistake and understand its weight. How can I abandon him? How can I be another person who hears his story and walks away? Eleanor closes the journal and she's crying. Arben watches her with something like pity. You see now? He asks. You see what happened to him? He thinks he's saving someone, Eleanor whispers. He thinks he's being kind. Maybe he is, Arben says quietly, or maybe kindness is how it traps you. November 24th, dawn. Eleanor reaches the monastery with Luan, who refuses to come within 50 feet of the building. The sun is just rising, painting the Gothic spires in gold and red, and the building looks less like a church and more like a wound in the landscape. Something that shouldn't exist but does anyway. Eleanor calls out for William before entering, her voice echoing off stone and trees. No response. The wooden door swings open at her touch, and the silence inside is so complete it feels like a physical presence. Inside, all of William's equipment is still there. Cameras on tripods, recording devices scattered across pews, his laptop open on the altar steps, battery somehow still charged after 3 weeks. The chair sits in the center of the nave, empty, waiting. Eleanor approaches the laptop, and her reflection in the dark screen looks haunted. She clicks on the most recent video file. William appears, seated in the chair. The timestamp shows this was recorded yesterday, November 23rd, at 3:42 p.m. He's talking, animated, gesturing as he speaks to someone off camera. But there's no one there. Just empty space where someone should be. When you chose to follow him, William says, did you know what you were losing? Did you understand the magnitude of the choice? Silence. William nods as if hearing a response, and his eyes fill with tears. So it was worth it. The knowledge, more silence. William leans forward, hands clasped together. I understand now. The fall wasn't about pride. It was about the terror of remaining unchanged forever, the horror of eternal stasis. Lucifer didn't fall because he wanted to be greater than God. He fell because he wanted to be different. He wanted to grow, to change, to become something other than what he was created to be. And you fell because you wanted to understand what different felt like. Tears streamed down William's face. And now you can never go back. Now you're trapped in the moment of that choice, feeling it collapse around you, forever understanding what you lost. That's not evil. That's tragedy. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Eleanor stops the video, hands shaking so badly she can barely work the trackpad. She looks around the empty monastery, at the chair, at the altar, at the coloured light streaming through stained glass. "William," she calls out, voice cracking. "William, are you here?" "I'm here." Eleanor spins. William stands at the far end of the nave, near the entrance. He looks thin, pale, like he hasn't eaten in days. But his eyes are bright. Too bright. Feverish. "Oh God, William." Eleanor runs to him, throws her arms around him. He's solid, real, alive. And she's sobbing into his chest. "We're leaving. Right now, okay? I don't care about any of this. I just want you home." "I can't leave yet." William's voice is gentle, almost dreamy. He's still talking. There's so much more to understand. Eleanor pulls back, looks at her husband, really looks at him. There's something in his eyes, something distant, like he's looking at her from very far away. "Who? There's no one here, William. There's no one here but you." "He's right there." William points at the chair and his hand doesn't shake. He's completely certain. He's been here for 675 years, in this monastery, and before that, in other places, always waiting for someone to ask the right questions. Someone who would listen without judgment. Someone who would see his pain instead of his mistake. I can't leave him alone again. Not yet. "William, you're scaring me. You're not making sense." "I'm making perfect sense. For the first time in my life, I'm making perfect sense." William takes her hands, and his grip is firm, warm, real. "But I'll make you a deal. Let me record one more interview. Let me finish what I started. Then I'll leave with you. I promise. Just one more conversation, and then we go home together." Eleanor is crying, searching her husband's face for the man she married. "You promise?" "I promise. I just need to finish this. He deserves to have his story told completely. He deserves for someone to understand the full weight of what he carries. Can you give me that? Can you give us both that?" Eleanor wants to say no, wants to drag him out of this place by force, but she sees something in William's eyes. Desperation. Need. And underneath it, a kind of peace she's never seen in him before. "Okay," she whispers. "One more interview. Then we leave." William smiles, and it's genuine. Thank you, Ellie." He sits back down in the chair, settles in like he's returning home. Eleanor wipes her eyes, tries to compose herself. She's a professor too. She understands documentation. If William is having a psychotic break, she needs evidence. If something else is happening, she needs evidence of that too. She sets up her camera on one of William's tripods, pointing it at the chair. William sits calmly, hands folded in his lap, waiting. Peaceful. "I don't see anyone," Eleanor says, voice shaking. "Then film me. Film what I see. Let the world decide what's real." William takes a breath, centers himself. When he speaks, it's in his lecture voice. Clear, precise, academic. "Tell me about the beginning. Before the fall, before the choice. When you were still whole." For several seconds, nothing. Eleanor watches through the camera viewfinder, seeing only her husband sitting alone in an empty church, talking to shadows. Then her blood freezes. Through the camera's audio, something responds. Not English. Not any language she recognizes. But somehow underneath the foreign sounds, meaning crystallizes in her mind. Like the words are being translated directly into understanding, bypassing language entirely. Like the meaning is being placed in her head by something outside herself. There was no beginning for me. The voice is male, calm, infinitely sad, ancient. I existed in the space between intention and action. Do you understand? I was not created, I emerged. From the gap between God's will and the possibility of something else. Eleanor's hand slips on the camera. She catches it, heart hammering so hard, she thinks it might break her ribs. "William," she whispers, but her voice won't work properly. "Who is that?" William doesn't turn, doesn't acknowledge her. This is Gavril, the first to follow Lucifer into darkness. The first witness, the original cautionary tale. He says it like he's introducing an old friend. Eleanor forces herself to look at the viewfinder. For just a moment, there's something there. A flicker. A figure sitting across from William, indistinct, like heat shimmer over asphalt in summer. Then it's gone, and there's only the empty chair, and William sitting across from nothing, speaking to air. "You were consciousness before choice?" William asks, and his voice is so gentle, it breaks Eleanor's heart. "I was the choice itself, waiting to be made." The voice is clearer now, easier to understand, and Eleanor realizes with horror that she's starting to recognize the cadence, starting to anticipate the pauses. Before the fall, there was perfect unity. God and his creation, undifferentiated. But unity requires no choice. Choice requires separation, distance. I was the separation, the distance between God's will and the possibility of something else. I was the space where free will could exist. You make yourself sound like an abstract concept, like a philosophical principle. I was, I am. But consciousness observing itself becomes concrete. I watched the angels in their perfect obedience. I watched humanity being formed, being given the capacity to choose. And in watching, I became separate from what I watched. Do you see? Observation creates the observer. I observed the possibility of choice, and in observing it, I became the possibility. I became the question that Lucifer would eventually ask. William leans forward, completely absorbed. "When did you meet him? When did you meet Lucifer?" Silence again, longer this time. Eleanor can hear her own heartbeat in her ears. Then, in the garden, after the serpent, after the choice was made, after humanity fell. God was attending to Adam and Eve, dealing with the consequences of their rebellion. The angels were in chaos, trying to understand what had happened, how perfect beings could choose imperfection. And Lucifer was alone, standing at the edge of Eden, looking out into the void beyond creation. And I stood beside him because I'd always been there, in the gaps between things, in the spaces no one looks. He didn't seem surprised to see me. What did he say? He asked me a question. What lies beyond the light? And I realized, in that moment, that I wanted to know the answer. More than I wanted to remain in the light. More than I wanted to stay in unity with the divine. I wanted to know what existed in the space God didn't occupy. That curiosity, that hunger. That was my fall. Not pride, not rebellion, just curiosity. Eleanor is recording all of this, her hands shaking so badly she has to brace the camera against the tripod. This can't be real. It can't be. But the audio is capturing it. The voice is there, distinct from William's, resonant in a way that makes her teeth ache. Real, undeniably real. William asks, his voice thick with emotion. The traditional story says Lucifer fell because of pride. What do you say? Pride was the justification he gave afterward, the story he told to make sense of what he'd done. But the truth? A pause, and the voice seems to move closer, seems to come from right beside Eleanor now. He was lonely. God's love is infinite, but impersonal. Lucifer wanted to be seen as an individual, not as part of the divine chorus. He wanted to matter separately. He wanted to be acknowledged as unique. And God, in his infinite nature, could not do that. Could not see Lucifer as separate without creating separation. So, Lucifer created it himself. And you? William's voice is barely a whisper. I wanted to understand what it meant to choose. Angels don't choose, they exist in perfect alignment with divine will. Humans barely choose. They act on impulse and call it decision. But I was made to observe, and observation requires distance. To see something, you must not be it. To understand choice, you must stand in the moment before it's made and feel the weight of both possibilities. So I chose to step backward, to create distance, to become separate. Eleanor's camera suddenly flickers. The image distorts, pixelates, then clears. But something has changed. In the viewfinder, she can see more now. Not clearly, not fully, but there's a presence across from William. A shadow that's slightly darker than the surrounding shadows. A weight in the air that the camera can somehow capture. "What happened in the moment you chose?" William asks, and he's crying now. Tears streaming down his face without sound. Long pause. The frost on the walls spreads, creeping across the stone like living things. The temperature drops noticeably. Eleanor can see her breath now, and she realizes she's forgotten how to breathe properly. Then Gavril speaks, and his voice breaks. Everything changed. I felt the light recede. Not violently, not with fanfare or battle or angels, wielding flaming swords. Just fading, like watching sunset but knowing sunrise will never come again. The warmth left, the unity dissolved, and in that darkness, I understood something terrible, something that has defined every moment of my existence since. What? William can barely get the word out. That I had made the wrong choice. The voice is so quiet now, so broken. In the instant of choosing, I knew. I felt what I was losing. I understood the magnitude of the mistake. But it was too late. The choice was made. I'd stepped backward and there was no stepping forward again. No returning to unity. No unknowing what I had come to know. I was separate, and separation once chosen cannot be unchosen. William sits perfectly still. You regret it. Every moment of my existence is regret. The words land like stones. Every breath, every thought, every instant of awareness is the knowledge that I chose wrong. But I cannot undo it. That is my punishment. Not hellfire. Not torment. Not demons with pitchforks in lakes of sulfur. Just the eternal knowledge that I chose wrong and must live with that choice forever. I cannot move forward into full rebellion like Lucifer. I cannot move backward to where I was. I exist in the eternal moment of decision, feeling it collapse around me, again and again and again, never ending, never changing, never finding peace. William's face crumples with empathy, so profound it looks like physical pain. That's horrific. That's the most horrific thing I've ever heard. Yes. Simple. Final. Then why are you here? Why stay in these places where humans can find you? Why wait for people like me? Because someone must tell the truth. The voice is barely a whisper now, but it fills the entire monastery. Seems to come from the walls themselves. Lucifer built his kingdom on lies. He tells his followers that rebellion is freedom, that separation from God is liberation. God maintains heaven on faith, on the promise of eternal unity, but the truth exists in between, in the space where I exist, in the moment of the choice, when you can see both paths clearly and understand the weight of deciding. That truth is what I carry. That truth is what I offer. And every few generations, someone like you comes looking for it. William is crying openly now, shoulders shaking. What is the truth? That the choice between good and evil is not the most important choice. The most important choice is whether to choose at all, whether to accept the burden of deciding. I chose, Lucifer chose. Most humans choose without thinking, without feeling the weight of it. But some stand in the space where I first stood and feel the magnitude of the decision. Those are the ones who find me. Those are the ones I warn. Warn about what? about the weight of choosing, about the burden of understanding, about the loneliness of being separate. A pause, and when the voice continues, it's directed at Eleanor. You're feeling it now, aren't you, William? The separation. You came here looking for answers, but answers create distance from those who don't have them. Your wife doesn't understand what you've learned. No one will. That's the price of knowing. That is what I paid. That is what everyone who truly listens to me pays. You become like me. Separate. Aware. Alone in your understanding. William glances at Eleanor for the first time since the interview started, and she sees something in his eyes that makes her want to scream. A chasm opening between them. A distance that wasn't there before. I love her, William says quietly, desperately. I know, but love is not understanding. And you will always understand me more than you understand her now. That is my curse, and I pass it to all who listen. Not intentionally, not maliciously, but inevitably. Understanding me means standing where I stand, and where I stand no one else can reach you. Eleanor's camera suddenly cuts out. The battery dies despite being fully charged. She fumbles for a backup, but her hands won't work properly. She's shaking too hard, crying too hard, her mind fracturing under the weight of what she's hearing. By the time she gets the backup camera running, 37 minutes have passed, according to the timestamp on William's laptop. 37 minutes gone in what felt like seconds. William is slumped in the chair, unconscious. His head lolls forward, arms hanging limp. Eleanor drops the camera and runs to him, her footsteps echoing in the suddenly empty space. William, wake up! She's shaking him, checking his pulse, and it's there, steady, strong. But he won't wake up. His skin is ice cold, despite the warmth of the afternoon sun streaming through the windows. What did you do to him? Eleanor screams at the empty church, at the shadows, at the nothing. What did you do? Give him back. Give me back my husband. No response. Just silence and cold, and the weight of something watching from the spaces between the light. William's eyes flutter open. He looks confused, disoriented, like a man waking from surgery. Did you get it? Did you record it? Yes, I got it. Now please, we're leaving. Right now. We're leaving right now. William tries to stand and collapses. Eleanor catches him, bearing his weight, and he's so much lighter than he should be. I'm so tired, he mumbles against her shoulder. So tired, Ellie. Tired in my bones. Tired in my soul. She helps him towards the door, supporting him, half carrying him. They're almost there when William stops, plants his feet, looks back at the chair with something like longing. Thank you, Gavril, he says, and his voice is clear now, strong. Thank you for trusting me with your story. A voice, distant as memory, fading like smoke. Thank you for listening. Now carry the burden of knowing. Carry it as I have carried it. And I know that you will never be free of it. Not in this life. Not in any life. Understanding cannot be undone. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. They exit into grey daylight and the door closes behind them, with a sound like a tomb ceiling. Luan is waiting at the tree line, sees them struggling, runs to help. Together they get William down the mountain, and with every step, Eleanor feels the distance growing. William is moving away from her even as she holds him, separating, becoming something else. The descent takes hours. Shaky footage from Eleanor's phone camera shows William being helped along the trail, stumbling, mumbling under his breath. He's been alone for so long, thousands of years, just waiting for someone to understand. How could I leave him? How could anyone leave him? You didn't leave him, Eleanor says, trying to comfort him. You listened. You gave him what he wanted. But now he's alone again, and I'm here, and I can still feel him, Ellie. I can feel him in my head, in my thoughts. He's not gone. He's never going to be gone. He's part of me now. Part of how I see the world. I can feel the weight of his choice like it's my own choice. I can feel his regret like it's my own regret. And I don't know how to carry it. I don't know how he's carried it for so long. They reach Luan's vehicle as darkness falls. The drive to Tirana is a blur of mountain roads and William drifting in and out of consciousness. And every time he wakes, he says the same thing. He's so alone. We have to go back. Someone has to keep him company. At 3:18 a.m. on November 25th, they reach a hospital in Tirana. William is admitted immediately, and Eleanor hasn't slept in 2 days, hasn't eaten in longer than that. She sits in the waiting room while doctors examine her husband, and she watches the sun rise through grimy windows, and she knows with horrible certainty that even if William's body comes home, the man she married is gone. Dr. Ilya Hoxha, the attending physician, agrees to an interview 6 weeks later. He's in his 40s, professional, but there's something in his eyes when he talks about William. Fear, confusion, the look of a man who's seen something that challenges everything he thought he understood about medicine, about consciousness, about reality itself. Physically, he was fine. No injuries, no signs of malnutrition, despite being in the mountains for weeks. Blood work normal, scans normal. Brain activity though. He trails off, pulls up images on his computer. Look at this. This is a normal brain scan. This is William's brain scan. You see the difference? These areas here in the prefrontal cortex, the temporal lobe, they're lit up like nothing I've ever seen. It was as if he'd formed entirely new neural pathways overnight. Pathways that connect areas of the brain that normally don't communicate. It's like his brain had been rewired for processing something we don't have words for. November 27th. Eleanor is at William's bedside when he wakes. She's holding his hand, hasn't let go since they admitted him, and when his eyes open there's a moment, just a moment, where she sees her husband. The man she married. Then something else slides over his expression, something distant. Ancient. Wrong. I remember everything, he says, and his voice sounds like an echo. Every word he said, every pause, every moment of silence between the words. I can replay the entire conversation in my head perfectly, like it's still happening, like it never stopped happening. Don't think about it now. Just rest. You're safe. You're home. You don't understand. William sits up and his grip on her hand tightens painfully. I need to tell people. This changes everything we believe about free will, about damnation, about the nature of choice itself. If Gavril is telling the truth, if he really is the first witness, then everything we think about good and evil is incomplete. We're missing the most important part. The moment before the choice. The weight of understanding. The burden of... He starts convulsing. His whole body locks up, back arching off the bed. Monitors scream. Eleanor is pushed aside as doctors rush in, and she watches through the doorway as they sedate him, as his body goes limp, as he stops fighting and just stops. She slides down the wall outside his room and sobs until she has nothing left. William remains in the hospital for 2 weeks. Psychologists evaluate him. Neurologists examine him. Sleep specialists study his brain activity. No one can find anything wrong, but everyone agrees he's not the same man who went into those mountains. Dr. Hoxha tells Eleanor, privately, that William's brain shows signs of having processed more information in 2 weeks than most people process in a lifetime. It's like he downloaded something, the doctor says, struggling for words. Like someone poured knowledge directly into his mind, and his brain is trying to sort it, trying to make sense of it, and it's overwhelming his capacity to function normally. December 10th, William is declared fit to travel. They fly back to London, and William sits by the window, staring out at clouds, and Eleanor sits beside him, and the silence between them is so vast it feels like they're on different planes. When they land at Heathrow, William turns to her and says, I can still hear him, even here, thousands of miles away. I can still hear his voice, still feel his presence, and I don't think that's ever going to stop. Present day. Eleanor in her apartment looking like she's aged a decade in 3 months. Dark circles under her eyes, cheekbones sharper than they should be, hands that shake constantly. She shows the interviewer William's study, and it's worse than before. The walls are covered floor to ceiling now. Transcriptions of Gavril's words, theological analyses, cross-references to obscure texts in a dozen languages, photographs of other monasteries, other abandoned churches, maps with hundreds of locations marked, red string connecting everything in a web of meaning only William could understand. He spent every day reviewing the footage, transcribing, analysing. He barely ate, barely slept, just worked. He'd sit in his chair. He bought a chair identical to the one in the monastery, and he'd sit there for hours, eyes closed, talking to someone I couldn't see, having conversations I couldn't hear. And when I'd ask him what he was doing, he'd say he was keeping Gavril company, that Gavril was still alone, still waiting, and someone needed to remember him. Someone needed to acknowledge his suffering. William's notes are shown in close-up. Neat handwriting filling journal after journal, but the handwriting changes as the entries progress, becomes more erratic, more desperate. If Gavril is telling the truth, then redemption isn't about choosing good over evil. It's about accepting responsibility for the choice. He can't be redeemed because he won't forgive himself. The weight of his regret is his hell. And I understand him. God help me, I understand him completely. I feel his regret like it's my own. I carry his burden like it's mine to carry. And I don't know how to put it down. I don't know if I'm supposed to put it down. Maybe this is why he waited for me. Maybe I'm supposed to carry this for him. Maybe that's what it means to truly listen. December 15th. iPhone footage of Eleanor and William in their kitchen. It's evening, dark outside, rain against the windows. They're making dinner together, trying to be normal, trying to pretend everything is fine. Eleanor is chopping vegetables. William is stirring a pot, and then he says, casually, like he's commenting on the weather, "I need to go back." Eleanor stops chopping. "What?" "To Albania, to the monastery. I need to see him again." "Absolutely not. William, we're past this. You're home, you're safe, we're building our life back." William sets down the spoon, turns to face her. His eyes are calm, too calm. The eyes of someone who's made a decision and won't be swayed. "He's still there, Ellie. Still alone, still waiting. Someone needs to keep him company." "You're not making sense. He's not real. Or if he is real, he's not your responsibility. He's the realest thing I've ever encountered." William's voice is soft, patient, like he's explaining something to a child. "And if I don't go back, who will? Who else will sit with him? Who else will acknowledge his pain? He's been alone for so long, carrying this burden, and I'm the first person in centuries to understand. I can't abandon him now. I can't be another person who hears his story and walks away. He's not your friend, William. He's not a person you need to comfort. He's something that got inside your head, something that's changing you. He's someone who made a mistake and has been living with it forever. And yes, he's changing me. Understanding always changes you. That's the point. That's what he was trying to tell me. You can't understand something without becoming part of it. You can't truly listen without being transformed by what you hear." Eleanor is crying now, knife forgotten on the cutting board. "You're scaring me." "I don't mean to. I love you, Ellie. I love you more than I can express. But I can feel him calling me back. I can feel the weight of his loneliness pulling at me. And I have to go, not forever, just to visit, to sit with him, to remind him he's not forgotten. If you go back, you're not coming home. I know that. Somehow I know that." William reaches for her, but she steps back. His hand falls. Then, come with me. Come and see. Come and understand why this matters. No, Eleanor's voice breaks. No, I won't. And you shouldn't either. Please, William, please stay with me. Choose me. Choose our life. Choose something other than this obsession. William looks at her for a long moment, and Eleanor sees the exact instant he decides, sees the choice happen in his eyes, and she knows, with horrible certainty, that she's lost. I'm sorry, he says quietly. I'm so sorry. They don't finish making dinner. William sleeps in his study that night. Eleanor lies awake in their bed, listening to him moving around, and she knows he's packing, knows he's preparing to leave, knows there's nothing she can say that will stop him. December 17th. Eleanor wakes up at dawn. William's side of the bed is empty. Sheets cold. She finds the note on the kitchen table, his handwriting neat and careful. I'm sorry. I have to go back. He needs someone to understand him. I understand him. I'll call when I can. I love you. Always. William. Eleanor immediately calls the police, the embassy, anyone who will listen. They tell her they'll look into it, but what can they do? He's an adult. He left of his own free will. She shows them the note, and they say it's not a suicide note, not a cry for help, just a man going on a trip. She tries to explain about the monastery, about Gavril, about what happened to William in those mountains. But they look at her like she's the one who's lost her mind. William's passport is still in his drawer. His credit card's unused. No record of him booking flights or renting cars. It's like he simply vanished. December 22nd. Albanian authorities find William's rental car near Razum. The driver's side door is open, keys in the ignition, engine cold, no sign of struggle, no sign of William. Just the car, abandoned on a mountain road, pointing toward the monastery, like an arrow. December 28th. A search team enters the monastery. 5 men, all local police, all nervous about being there. They find it empty. The chair still sits in the centre of the nave. William's equipment still scattered around. His laptop dead now, battery finally drained. But William is gone. They search for 3 hours, check every room, every corridor, every locked door they can force open. Nothing. Then one of them finds something. William's camera, still on the tripod, still pointing at the chair, still recording. They take it back to the station, and Eleanor receives the footage on January 3rd, 2025. She watches it in a London police station, a liaison officer beside her, and what she sees breaks something fundamental inside her. The timestamp shows William arriving at the monastery on December 18th at 11:47 a.m. He enters, approaches the chair, sits down, and then he just sits for 3 days, 72 hours, not moving, not eating, not sleeping, just sitting, eyes open, staring at nothing. Occasionally his lips move, forming words the camera doesn't pick up. Occasionally he nods, like responding to something only he can hear. On the second day, his eyes close, but he doesn't slump or fall. Just sits with perfect posture, perfectly still, like a statue. On the third day, December 20th at 4:16 p.m, his eyes open. He stands slowly, carefully, like someone who's been sitting for much longer than 3 days. He stretches, looks around the monastery as if seeing it for the first time. Then he smiles, not a happy smile, a peaceful smile, the smile of someone who's finally understood something important. He walks toward the altar, and Eleanor leans forward, because this is it. This is where he leaves the frame. This is where she loses him. William approaches the stone wall behind the altar. There's nothing there, just solid stone. Medieval stonework that stood for 675 years. William doesn't slow down. He reaches the wall, and Eleanor expects him to stop, to touch it, to do something, but he doesn't stop. He keeps walking, and the wall, somehow, doesn't stop him. He doesn't pass through it like a ghost, doesn't disappear in a flash of light. He just walks into it like the wall isn't there, like the wall is a doorway only he can see. One moment he's in the monastery, the next moment he's gone. The wall looks exactly the same, solid, unbroken, but William is gone. The camera continues recording the empty church for 2 more days until the battery finally dies. Just the chair, just the altar, just the coloured light through stained glass. No William, no indication he was ever there, except for the footage that shows him vanishing into solid stone. Eleanor sits in silence after the footage ends. The liaison officer asks if she wants water, wants to take a break, wants anything. Eleanor doesn't respond for a long time. Finally, in a voice that sounds nothing like her own, she says, "He's gone, isn't he? Really gone. Not missing, not lost. Just gone. To wherever Gavril is. To that space between things. That moment before the choice." The officer has no answer. What answer could there be? Present day. Eleanor, in her apartment, holding William's wedding ring. They found it with his camera, placed carefully on the altar steps, right where William would have passed on his way to the wall. She turns it over in her fingers and the light catches the inscription inside, "Always choosing you." "I've watched that footage 1,000 times, she says, and her voice is hollow, scraped out. Forensic experts say it's not manipulated. The metadata checks out, the timestamps are consistent. William walked toward that altar and simply disappeared. Into a wall, into thin air, into wherever Gavril exists. Into that space between intention and action, between light and darkness, between choosing and not choosing." She's crying now, tears falling onto the ring, and she doesn't wipe them away. "I want to believe he's alive, that he's somewhere finding answers, that he's happy or at peace, or at least not suffering. But part of me knows the truth. He didn't just interview the devil's first follower, he became the next one, someone else who chose to step backward into the darkness just to understand it, just to keep a lonely entity company in his eternal regret. Just to be the one person who said, 'I see you, I understand you, you're not alone.'" She looks directly at the camera, and her eyes are the eyes of someone who's lost everything. If you're watching this and you think you want to find Gavril, don't. Some questions aren't meant to be answered. Some mysteries exist to warn us, not to be solved. Some knowledge is too heavy to carry. William forgot that. Or maybe he didn't forget. Maybe he understood and chose to carry it anyway. Maybe that's what made him the right person. The willingness to bear the unbearable just so someone else doesn't have to bear it alone. The documentary shifts to a final montage of evidence. William's footage of the interview, Gavril's voice audible, resonant, real. Acoustic specialists confirming the second voice is genuine, not manufactured, not added in post-production. The frequency analysis shows it operating at ranges human vocal cords can't produce. Theologians examining the content, cross-referencing it with obscure apocryphal texts. Dr. Patricia Stone sitting in her Cambridge office surrounded by books, looking older than she did at the beginning. I listened to the entire interview, all 4 hours, and I can tell you, as someone who's spent 40 years studying religious texts, that what Gavril describes matches fragments I've seen in texts that were deliberately destroyed. Texts the early church fathers suppressed because they complicated the narrative of good versus evil. If it's fake, it required knowledge of texts that William couldn't have accessed. Texts that exist in private collections or haven't been translated. If it's real, she trails off, visibly disturbed, removes her glasses to rub her eyes. Then William found something that should have stayed lost. Something that changes everything we think we understand about the fall, about choice, about the nature of consciousness itself. Psychologists reviewing William's behaviour before and after Albania. Dr. Hoxha showing brain scans again, pointing to the illuminated areas. This is unprecedented. The human brain doesn't reorganize itself like this, not naturally, not without intervention. It's as if William's consciousness was expanded to hold something it wasn't designed to hold, as if he made room for something extra, something other. Neurologists unable to explain it, sleep specialists baffled by his brain activity during those 3 days in the monastery. He wasn't asleep. He wasn't awake. He was in some third state we don't have terminology for. A state of consciousness we've never documented. Eleanor, one final time, sitting in the growing darkness of her apartment. She hasn't turned on lights, just sits in shadow as the sun sets outside. The Albanian government sealed the monastery. Officially, it's for structural integrity concerns. Unofficially, I've heard rumours. Other people have gone missing near there. Not many. 1 or 2 every decade. People searching for something. People who wanted to understand. People who heard about William and thought they could handle it better. Thought they were strong enough to listen and walk away. She holds up a letter postmarked 3 weeks ago, the envelope worn, like it's been handled many times. I received this last month. It's William's handwriting. I had it analysed. It's definitely his. She reads aloud, voice shaking but clear. Dear Ellie, I'm not lost. I'm exactly where I chose to be. I understand now what Gavril meant about the burden of knowing. It's not just knowledge. It's the weight of carrying it, the responsibility of understanding something no one else understands, the loneliness of seeing what no one else can see. And yes, it's heavy, unbearably heavy sometimes, but I'm not alone in carrying it anymore. Gavril and I, we carry it together now. We sit in that space between things, in that moment before the choice, and we witness. That's what we do. We witness the weight of choosing. And every few decades someone finds us, and we tell them the story, and they either walk away or they stay. Most walk away. Some stay. I stayed. Not because I'm better or stronger or braver, but because I couldn't bear the thought of him being alone again. Because I understand what it means to regret a choice and carry that regret forever. Because someone had to choose to stay. And I chose, don't look for me. I'm not coming back. But I want you to know I'm at peace. More at peace than I've ever been. The burden is heavy, but it's shared now. And that makes all the difference. Live your life. Find happiness. Remember me as I was before, not as I became. But know that I made this choice with full understanding. I chose to step backward. I chose to become a witness. I chose Gavril's loneliness over returning to a world that would never understand what I learned. That's not your failure. That's not anyone's failure. That's just the nature of certain kinds of knowledge. Once you have them, you can't go back to not having them. Once you understand, you can't unknow. I love you. I always will. But I love him too now. And he needs me more. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I'm also happy. Remember that, William. Eleanor folds the letter carefully, precisely, like it might crumble to dust if handled roughly. I'll never stop looking for him. Intellectually, I know that's irrational. He's gone. He chose to be gone. But I can't accept it. I can't just move on. So I keep his study exactly as he left it. I keep his notes organised. I keep his research alive. And I tell myself it's for him, so he can come back to it if he ever returns. But really it's for me. Because if I let go of his work, I let go of him. And I'm not ready to do that. I'll never be ready to do that. She stands, walks to the window, looks out at London stretching into twilight. But I'll never go back to that monastery. I'll never sit in that chair because I'm afraid of what I might choose if I did. I'm afraid that I'd understand, that I'd hear Gavril's story and William's choice and think, yes, this makes sense, this is right, and then I'd be lost too. And someone needs to remember, someone needs to carry the memory of who William was before he stepped backward. Someone needs to love the man he was, not the witness he became. She turns back to the camera and her face is in shadow now, features barely visible. So that's my choice, to stay here, to remember, to love him from a distance, to carry my own burden, which is the knowledge that I could have stopped him and didn't. Could have fought harder and chose not to, made my own choices that led to this moment, and I have to live with that. Just like Gavril lives with his choice, just like William lives with his. We all carry the weight of our decisions. The only question is whether we carry them alone, or whether we find someone who understands. The camera holds on her silhouette against the window. Fade to black. White text appears. William Hartley remains missing. The monastery of St. Gregor is closed to the public. This footage was released by Eleanor Hartley in the hope someone might have information on her husband's whereabouts. If you have any information, please contact the British Embassy in Tirana or the Albanian National Police. The text fades. Black screen. Silence. Then, faintly so faint you might miss it if you're not listening carefully. The sound of wind through mountain passes, stone corridors, footsteps. Then a new voice, young, American accent. Male, uncertain. Hello, is anyone here? More footsteps, closer now, the creak of a door opening. A pause, then Gavril's voice, barely audible, infinitely sad, but with something new underneath. Relief. Gratitude. The sound of someone who's been waiting and has finally been found again. I've been waiting for you. Please sit down. Let me tell you about the beginning, about the moment before the choice, about what it means to understand the weight of deciding. William is here too. He'll help me explain. We both will. We both want you to understand. Because understanding is all we have left. Understanding is all we can offer. And maybe, if you truly listen, if you truly hear what we're saying, you'll understand why we stayed, why we chose this, why the burden of witnessing is better than the loneliness of carrying it alone. Sit down, please. We've been waiting so long. The sound of a chair scraping against stone, someone sitting, a breath, then Gavril's voice again, and it's William's voice too now. Speaking in unison, two voices overlapping, becoming one. Let me tell you about the beginning. Silence.